Hello, and welcome back to a fool probably wearing the same sweater as he did last week because laundry day falls on a Friday. And that is the day I take my best sweater and I put it on my body because it is just... everyone has one of those sweaters where it's just more comfortable than every other one, so I just put it on every time I do laundry. Last year I did a video where I talked about the greatest PlayStation 3 games. Not in my opinion, just in terms of the actual rating of the game, in terms of Metacritic, because I don't know what other source would be reliable or just better, not IGN. I wanted to see if they were still fun and just as good as they once were, because this is almost 20 years old now, or the system is. Some of the games aren't, but the system is almost 20 years old at this point, so are the games actually still as fun and as good as they were when they were first rated for the first time? I may have said first twice in that, but this is going to be different this time. The absolute best at anything is just always something up for debate. You might change your mind or something. It might be wrong, it might be right. I personally believe that there may be better PlayStation 3 games than some of them that are on that list. I tried to figure out which PlayStation 3 games have aged just incredibly well, and if you went back and played them, they would still be amazing. Now, there is a lot still. This is absolutely a generation where you could probably find like 95% of the games on the system and make the case that they could be even maybe considered fantastic. I think the only thing more insane and shocking than some PlayStation 3 games at this point is a Kanye West Twitter post. That guy has lost his mind. I don't really know if there's a generation that had better anything than this specific generation had better first-person shooters. I honestly really deep down believe that there may be never a generation like this again, where there's just so many FPS games to play, where they're not a broken mess, or they're just not interesting, or if they're just multiplayer-based only. That's where we're going now, where everything released where it might be a first-person shooter, some of the damn games don't even have a campaign. One of the greatest first-person shooters I ever played in my life, where you might actually remember the exact moment in time you played it because it is that fantastic, is BioShock. I didn't really know anything about this game at first. I just remember browsing the Xbox 360 store at the time because this did release first on the 360. In fact, it was like a year before PS3. And not knowing what was... I think there was a demo or something. I played the demo. I was scared to death because I was scared to walk into like the first building. I walked up the stairs and chickened out as soon as I saw the darkness and then just ran away. This is a game that continues to get respect, and you even hear people quote the game all the time, or at least see it on websites or apps or something. Every vending machine you decide to hack, every big daddy you decide to just weave in and out of these posts in the middle of the room, because that seems like it's the only way you can kill them. This was basically where the hell were you when this game released, because there's only specific moments in time where games like this How come every time I stand here I'm almost choking to death? BioShock 1 is definitely a game that is always going to be impressive. The detail that takes place, some games you played too, especially first-person shooters I've noticed too, some of the level design is not very good. Especially from this generation too, there's been some games you play, they might be amazing, but then there's some levels you play at and there's nothing here. There's nothing in a game like this that makes me feel like anything was not worthy of considering this probably one of the greatest games for the PlayStation 3, and just simply maybe of all time. If you actually look at a list, you go to YouTube right now and search top games of all time and then probably look at a good amount of them, BioShock will probably be on a lot of top 10s. One of the most impressive first-person shooters I've personally ever played. I think I started that same way last time, but this is still the same. Killzone 2 is the first game in this series that I did play because I've never touched the first one. This is possibly one of the most impressive games ever made at this specific moment in time. Obviously, the visuals and everything, which are insanely nice. If you go back and play a game like Haze or something, and then you play a game like Killzone, it doesn't even feel like they were released on the same system. I remember playing this game for the first time, and not only was I actually intrigued with what was taking place in front of my face, I couldn't even get over the fact that the gameplay probably felt as good as I've ever experienced in a first-person shooter. This is still one of the greatest first-person shooters from this span of time. Some things become legendary and some things don't, but some things that do become legendary, they all start from somewhere. I always feel like this is a hot take, but I honestly feel like Call of Duty 4 is the greatest one in the series. All of it, if this makes sense. Modern Warfare 2 is the most fun I've had playing a Call of Duty game. But in terms of what is the best, it is definitely Call of Duty 4 in my opinion. The multiplayer felt somewhat balanced at the time. I don't know if anything besides noob tubing and Juggernaut was really something that was annoying. The campaign was also something that I've just recently gone back and played and enjoyed every single second of it again. It's really nice how you can actually go back and play a game from this generation. There's a good campaign. Trying to find something that's bad in some of these because, if something is, there can be bad things and good things, right? That makes sense? I don't know. Probably doesn't. I just played Deus Ex for the first time. Human Revolution. That one. That's one specific game I just played for the first time and liked it. Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption are obvious picks for the greatest games from this generation. Everything regarding the detailing, soundtracks are incredible. So many things to do in games like this where you just can drive around or ride around on a horse or something. And that's still fun. Even games you might not have even really known about or just known about them and you never got to play it or something. It's not something where the story is really it's not that interesting. I don't really care about what's going on in the story. Just the gameplay alone feels incredible. I don't know if I've ever had more fun in my life than when I went back and played Warhawk. This is probably one of the greatest multiplayer games ever released for the PlayStation 3. I am sticking to that. I will die on that hill. I don't know if there's really a multiplayer game where I felt like, damn, that was one of the first multiplayer games I think I played on the system. It's nice that you can even find the community that still plays this too these days and you can go back and play it. It was a game that released probably around the right time. And I really do believe that it is one of the greatest PlayStation 3 games ever. The multiplayer was just that damn good. It was addicting. Like you could play that for your whole day and not move. What the hell is food? What the hell is showering? What is my bed? Metal Gear Solid is probably one of the greatest franchises that's been really ever released on any console. Metal Gear Solid... These games can be very weird at times, but yet so detailed that it's almost laughable for how good it is. It almost just feels like the game doesn't make sense at times, but it's just so good because the gameplay is that impressive. I think this is still locked on PlayStation 3. I don't know if you can play it on anything else at the moment, unless it got moved or something. God of War as a series is still very impressive. God of War 3 even more specific. Not even gonna lie, I don't even know if I would go back and play probably God of War Ragnarok. Not because they're bad or something on the new systems, it's just I feel like I like the older ones better. And God of War 3 is still very fun. Sleeping Dogs seems to be a game where if you have played it, you quite enjoyed it. It's like True Crime from PlayStation. If you haven't played True Crime before, then maybe you should. This is just yet again where the cycle of games, the specific genre of games, you could find so many to play that you may not have known much about. The Last of Us is also a game where everyone definitely feels like it is incredible, which it is a very good game. I honestly don't like playing games at this point in my life that just are that depressing. I'm just not really in the mood at this point in my life to sit down and just become depressed. Or even more than I already am. I like playing games that are happy. Or just not that sad is probably the better word, because some games might be a little bit depressing at times, especially from this generation. There is really no limits to what some of these games could be about. Modern Warfare 2 had probably one of the most insane missions you will ever see, and you will 100% never see a mission like that again in your life. This was the last generation too, where racing games really felt more advanced than they should be, and really at this point, I don't know if we're ever going to see a good racing game again, at least maybe, I don't know, I personally kind of like Need for Speed Unbound. That's just because I haven't played a racing game in like almost 10 years. Racing games were huge at one point. You could not walk around anywhere and you wouldn't hear someone not talking about Need for Speed Underground or something. There was so much variety back in the day. If you wanted to play a more serious racing game like Gran Turismo, 5 or 6 specifically, even 3 on the PlayStation 2. Or if you just wanted to have kind of a more Mario Kart experience where there's power-ups and things like that are happening, then a game like Blur is fun. Motorstorm Pacific Rift, I really believe, is one of the greatest PlayStation 3 games ever too in terms of this specific genre of game. A racing game is one thing, but when it's as good as this, then damn. Even the Driver games were still somewhat relevant at the time. Driver San Francisco is really nice. The visuals in this game are awesome. Now that we're almost 20 years after, we're going into the 19th year after PlayStation 3 has been released, and you think things might not be able to impress you anymore when it comes to anything new or something. And then I saw this somewhere. I think it was Jake Baldino. He made a video talking about if someone was not really enjoying video games at this point in their life, then maybe even going back and playing some of the games you've loved as a child will bring back the passion. It's true. Anything that you once enjoyed playing, and you just go back, you go to a retro game store, you buy a bunch of games, and you play one that you just honestly loved when you were growing up. It brings and then you just like playing new things again. You could honestly have such a large list for what could be considered some of the greatest games on the PlayStation 3 ever. Some of them stand out even more now, because the greatest PlayStation 3 games of all time, they may have been the greatest 15 years ago, but now that we're almost 20 years after the system released, it's different now. Certain games feel more fun. They feel better. They feel like you appreciate them more. Everything that's in the game that you may not have enjoyed or you just did enjoy. Sometimes you play games you once enjoyed, you go back and play them and you don't enjoy them that much anymore. And sometimes it's the opposite. Or you just remember playing a game for like an hour and then you get it again, you play the whole damn thing, it's like, this is one of the best games I ever played in my life. PlayStation 3, simply put, is impressive. And most of the games on the system are as well. It is honestly more impressive than making it through a Sunday dinner without your grandfather threatening the waiter. There are incredible story-based games. There are still incredible multiplayer games that you might even be able to play. If the servers are still active, there are even games you may not have heard about. You just go online, you try to find some games you might want to go back and play if you're playing on a specific system at this time, and you enjoy them more than you should. They don't even have good reviews. And you'll play the game and you'll wonder to yourself, am I choking on my spit again? People won't appreciate them. They'll be like 71s or something on Metacritic, and then you play, it's like, why is this rated so bad? It's weird. I honestly feel like if we reset everything in terms of rating games and just reviewing everything, there'd be a lot of differences. You can mention the, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid 4, Uncharted. Those are easily some of the best on the system. Remember the Guitar Hero games, which I saw, if anyone's ever seen the channel Rad Junk, which if you haven't, you should check it out. It's awesome. It's just basically a retro gaming channel where they talk about like owning a game store and everything, and the people involved are amazing. Sam, one of the people from Rad Junk, made a short. She was talking about underrated games she was talking about overrated games, and Guitar Hero was one of them. Guitar Hero 3. Games like that stood out. Those were some of the most fun games to play. Just rocking out Rock Band. Damn. Sitting there playing the drums like a lunatic in the basement. In the basement. You were losing your mind playing the drums on Rock Band. PlayStation 3 is still amazing from every single ounce of year it's been alive, if that made sense. And it's really hard to find a game that'll just make you sad and angry that you even tried to play it. There are games that will always be remembered. Some games will stand out more than others, and some games might even replace some of the games that you thought were once some of the best on the system. I didn't even mention Assassin's Creed, but it's hard to find one that'll make you so sad and angry that you played it and just never want to play it again, or just you want to throw it against the wall or something, turn it into a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something. A mayonnaise sandwich. I saw somebody once with an icing sandwich. Just bread and icing. Hopefully this made sense, and hopefully a lot of these games are still fun for everybody, because these are still probably the most that stand out now, where you just play them and you're like, wow, this was this old? Layer kind of sucks though.